to start assembling the hoops now. First we're going to do the end hoop. And the only difference between the ends and the center hoops are, the ends do not have a cross brace, because later on when you put up your end wall, that's going to act as your cross brace. So we'll go ahead and pull these together, and 3 screws go in each joint. You're going to make sure your screws are all on the lower side, 2 at an angle and then 1 directly below. You don't want them anywhere where your film is going to possibly be able to snag it and tear holes. So you just slide these together. You want to make sure that your work area is relatively level, because you don't want these to be twisted, and then you put your screws in them and you go to stand them up, it's going to have that twist and they're not going to line up. So you want to make sure a relatively level work area. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can kind of work them back and forth and make sure it's sitting right. Just like that. Now I prefer to go ahead and just put 1 screw in each joint, make sure it's all straight, then put your other screws in. Otherwise, if you get it off, you're going to back out all 6 screws instead of just the 2. Alright, now on the center ones, they have a brace. Mine just have a single brace across it. There's lots of different bracing styles depending on what kind of a high tunnel you bought. And so mine just has a single, so what you want to do is get your brace centered. And you do that by measuring down from your seam here. And on these, they measure at 44 inches from the seam to the center of the eye on the brace. And so once you got that measurement, if they don't tell you what the measurement is, you can just work it back and forth until you get the same measurement on both sides. Now to put this on, you take your mount bracket here and kind of just bend it open. Bend it back around. You can also, if you remember, before you put the hoop together, you can just slide them on. Makes it a little quicker. And then from there, just has a bolt that goes through. Kind of squeeze that together by hand. Put the nut on there and get it started. If you have an impact or something like that, that'll make it a lot quicker. I use a speed bar. It's a lot faster than like a ratchet or a wrench. But this is a good quick alternative if you do not have a electric impact. Now, you don't want to get this tight, just barely, not even quite snug, enough where you can still move it, and then check your measurement again, because it might have moved a little. All right, that's still at 44, so I'm good. Go ahead and pull that up where it's center in the middle of the bar here. Tighten it down. There we go. And then after that's tight, to make sure that these brackets never move or slide around, you go ahead and put 1 self-drilling screw in. Once again, make sure it's at a downward angle here, so that way it stays out of the way of the film. All right, I just repeat the process on the other side. All right, now also when you're putting these together, sometimes you'll run into they will not just slide together easily, and you won't be able to get them together for anything. And what the causes normally of that are, what I've come to is either sometimes these will get bent down slightly in shipping, they get dented, then you can either use an adjustable end wrench or I use a pair of locking pliers. You can just clamp it on there and then just lightly bend it up, and that'll fix that real easily. The next thing that can be is where these pipes are welded, the seam's welded on the inside. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of a glob where the weld got a little big at the factory. So what I do then is I take a steel cutting chisel and a hammer, and you just hold that in there and just tap and knock those off. That takes care of that relatively easily. If it's even worse, you might have to get a little drum sander or some sort of grinding wheel that can fit in there off of a drill or angle grinder or something like that. The next thing that we've been running into, and this is only on a few, not always, but these ends haven't been, they size these down by pressing them, and they haven't been pressed enough. So they're a little bit large diameter and it's too tight of a fit. And so the easiest ways to take care of that are, you can either, once you get them kind of started, this one here doesn't have that problem, it's together easy. But once you get them started, then while one person is pulling it together, have somebody use a mallet like this. These are kind of a soft plastic and they're weighted so they have a pretty good hit. And have them just tap on the pipe as you squeeze it together and just keep going, and the vibration will help it work together. If it's even worse than that, you can have somebody hold it up and you can drive the pipe on from the end. That also works and does a pretty good job, but you're going to want to make sure that it's already flat and lined up when you're holding it on its edge. Because if it's real tight going on, you might not be able to rotate that once you get it on there. So you're going to want to make sure it's lined up relatively closely while you're driving that on. Then the last thing we found that works is taking one of the brackets that holds your cross braces on, go ahead and tighten this down with your wrench, and then we used a sledgehammer. You can use a smaller hammer than this, and then you can just lightly tap it or hit it this way to drive it on. And that worked okay too, but you gotta be careful because you will kind of bend these out of shape and then you'll have to take them apart and kind of re-straighten them out. So there's a couple of methods you can use if you have trouble getting these to slide together. If it was really bad and they really didn't get this right, then you could maybe even sand that down a little or something. But I think that should get you there, and yeah, we haven't had too much trouble, but it just kind of depends. It's kind of a case-by-case basis on these pipes on how well they slide together. Okay, well, all the hoops are done now. We have them all stacked up. Now we're going to go ahead and put them on the post. We just carry them up one by one and just go one at a time and set them in place. It'll take 2 people to do it. You can have 3, might make it a little easier, but 2's just fine. And so we'll get started on that.